Hi, everybody. This is Erica Meloe, and welcome to Tough to Treat. In this episode, Susan and I actually talk with a patient of mine who came to me initially with ankle pain and hip pain and back and knee issues, and doing very well. Her driver for all of those issues was her right foot and secondarily her left hip, and we've been progressing her to running, and she's postpartum about a little over a year now, and moving along with running, and then she started to leak while she ran, and she has a history there. So I turned to Susan for some advice on the issue with the leaking, and we bring my patient on and we talk to her and we clinically reason through her background, and we give her some suggestions on what to do about the leaking. It's a fantastic episode because it actually includes a great patient interaction. So we hope you enjoy it. And also, just a reminder, if you haven't heard about our Women in Physical Therapy Summit, it's our fourth annual one. We are holding it this year in Portland, Oregon, and it will be the weekend of September 27th and 28th, a Friday and a half day on Saturday. If you need any information, go to womeninpt.com. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, this is Erica Meloe and Susan Clinton, and this is Tough to Treat. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Erica.
This is going to be actually quite a unique episode. We are going to have a patient of mine on the call. She'll be hopping on in a bit, and you'll sort of see why she's on the call, and you'll get the whole sort of background. But we thought it would be a great change of pace and a great learning experience for everybody. So I will just give you a brief background on her because she's got different issues now. So I'll just basically tell you what's going on or how she came to me. She is postpartum I think she was about a year when she first came to see me, and a long history. To make a long story short, she's a runner and ran a few marathons, wants to go back to running, has not run, probably since about a year now, I would say, if not more. We could ask her when she jumps on. I don't remember offhand. And she came to see me with bilateral knee pain and left hip pain and right Achilles pain, and she had a history of leaking after giving birth. She saw a women's health therapist here in New York and basically gave her the typical sort of Kegel, things like that. That's what she told me. But she had not run, basically, and that quote to quote her, had stopped the leaking. And she has a history of a neuroma on her left foot. So the main thing was the left hip and the right ankle, okay, and the other stuff was ancillary, the knees and the back. So I took a look at her, basically, like I normally do in standing, and because she had so many different issues. And I'm just going to briefly explain what I found because I think we want to get her on in a bit just to talk about what she's doing now. So she wanted to run. So what I basically took a look at was, obviously I took a look at her in standing, left hip anterior, both feet, supinated, rigid feet. Nothing, nothing crazy. She did have, FYI, a FHL release on her left foot some years ago. She's hypermobile on that foot into a great toe extension, extremely, very not rigid at all, very flexible. Right foot, not so much. And so I took a look at her one-legged standing. I took a look at a one-legged squat. I did not have her run to start. One-legged standing and one-legged squatting. She couldn't even control her left or her right foot, to be really honest. And when I looked at her right foot and sort of put it in neutral, quote unquote, subtalar joint neutral, had her do the one-legged squat. One-legged standing, I didn't see a ton. I mean, she was not really controlling either movement, to be honest, but I had her do a one-legged squat, and then I neutralized her foot. And ironically, when I neutralized her right foot and neutralized her left foot, her one-legged squatting got better and her hip
partially got better. I would say her hip seated quite nicely, about 85%. I'm going through this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a few other things. Okay. I had her do a step forward. So when she did a step forward with the right foot was extremely rigid, putting a lot of weight on the outside border of her right foot. Her left foot, the back foot, hypermobile, completely so hypermobile into plantar flexion going into that big toe. And, you know, didn't feel anything in her left foot at that time. Okay. And she felt pretty okay, but her back foot was just twisted and really hypermobile. I had her reverse, left step forward, right foot back. Nothing really crazy there. I'm going to fast forward a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We had her, so she was very, very compliant with her exercise program. I mean, this girl was amazing. She did everything I told her to do, and then some. So I thought that from my initial evaluation, and I did a little bit more than what I'm talking about now, but I ended up treating her right foot. Okay. And I released some of the muscles at the bottom of the foot. I taped her right foot. I rechecked one-legged squat, one-legged standing. She's perfect. I mean, not perfect, but she was not, she wasn't losing control or anything. So I felt that given her long history, let's just start simple. And what I did, she was in a boot, by the way, for that Achilles tendonitis, probably for over, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. This was probably a while before she came to see me. So that makes sense why that right foot was so rigid. And she had no physical therapy at all for that. So what happened was I ended up working on so then she moved out of New York City. Okay. And I didn't get to see her that much. So I saw her basically once a month, and I was basically on the phone or emailing exercises. So I gave her some of my basic foot exercises to start with. I had her do seated heel raises. I have something where you do heel toe, so you're walking, you go heel, toe, toe, heel. I could demo this at some other point. I had her doing a lot of that. I had her start to do lateral lunges to get the lateral movement. She was feeling it a bit in her left hip. Her left hip was a partial driver. So after the first visit, I was giving her some of the Shirley Sarman all fours, sit back with that
Mm-hmm.
left hip into external rotation. That helped her tremendously. So
Mm-hmm.
she used that as quote unquote a reset exercise whenever her hip flared up. But her hip did not flare up when the right foot was taped or worked on at all. So I had her do some lunges, lateral lunges, progress the foot program. In that time frame, her left foot flared up her neuroma badly. Not sure. I don't know why, but it did. It didn't flare up badly. I take that back. It was starting to bother her. She ended up going to see a podiatrist who gave her a cortisone shot, which made her way, way worse. Then she had a second cortisone shot, made it even worse. I mean, then the doctor wanted to get her an EMG, and she was like flipping out. We had the whole psychological, everybody's telling me to do this, and I'm freaked out now because I think I'm going to need, surgery on my left foot. She was very, very crazy, not crazy, very upset with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can stop there. Do you have any questions? I'm really fast forwarding because we're almost at where we are now. So are you good with the history so far, Susan?
Yeah, I'm good with the history so far. Why did she have a flexor hallucis longus release? No?
Good question. I probably knew the answer. It was so long ago. You can ask her. We can ask her when she gets on.
Okay.
We'll ask her.
And how long ago were the cortisone shots and the...
May, recent.
Okay,
this year.
recent, May.
Yep. May and April, May, June.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So she's been progressing very well, and so when she sort of calmed down, did not get the EMG, never went back to the podiatrist. So I brought her back in and I said, you need to start, you're very hypermobile in that left foot. Tape the left foot like you're taping the right foot. So I was doing this via email and phone, and then she came in and it was making her foot feel better. And she really, really, really wanted to run. Okay. So, and so, just to recap, right Achilles tendonitis, left hip pain, low back, knees. The driver was mainly the right foot and a secondary driver of her left hip. So I didn't really give her a ton of exercises for the hip, just the Shirley Sarman exercise that I mentioned, and the foot progressions. Seated heel raises, toe heel, lateral lunges. I can go through those at another point. So fast forward to now. She started running. She was thrilled to be running, and I think she needed that psychologically. So she started running about, I would say, about 3 weeks ago. And she ended up I had her on a treadmill, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 10 minutes. I said, that's it. That's how you're going to start. And she had been doing Pilates and yoga throughout this whole time, which I think was very, very helpful, and doing all the exercises I gave her, and I could share those at a later date. But the main issue, she came back to me and said the running was fine. I also had given her star lunges. So, the whole clock lunges, which I needed her to do for the foot control. Her thorax was great. She had pretty good rotation, didn't need to touch the thorax. So then she ran again. I said, go up to 15 minutes. And I get a text message from her saying she started to leak. Okay. And that is where we are now. And so, and that's when I contacted you, and she did not leak the 10-minute run, had not run at all since giving birth. Right. So this was a first, and I know she really wanted to run, and I felt that psychologically it would be better off for her just to start out. The neuroma didn't get worse, it didn't get better, it just was. So I think that's okay. I still think that she's got that hypermobile big toe. We can talk about that with her. I don't know when the surgery was, but she was so compliant. This girl was doing these exercises almost every day. For the hip, the Sarmin, I gave her the lateral lunges, which also were great for the hip. The toe heel, I then had her do against a wall, just teeny heel raises, knees bent, knees straight, down, very low level. She was pretty okay with that. I think the thing that really helped her with the foot was the lunges and the star lunges and doing those different patterns and rotation. I had her do forward lunges with rotation, etc. And I think that really did help her, but she was freaked out when the neuroma hit, I have to be honest. So that's about it. Okay, everybody. Jackie is now on the phone or on our wonderful podcast. And Susan and I are just going to, so I know Susan had a couple of questions on some of Jackie's history and a couple of other questions as well. So you want to go ahead, Susan?
Jackie, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that. And
thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you for being willing to kind of share your story with all of us too. It's fantastic, and we really appreciate it. So the first question I have, just kind of going back to your history, how long ago were you pregnant? How old is your child?
My daughter is 14 months.
14 months, a little girl. How exciting.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're very busy.
Yes, she's keeping me busy.
Yeah, especially that age when they're so mobile.
Yes.
You had in your history, they released a muscle in your foot, the flexor hallucis longus muscle.
Yes.
When did they do that, and why?
I had that surgery in June of 2011.
Okay.
I had been marathon running at the time and had pain in the arch of my left foot that they thought at first was plantar fasciitis. I had plantar fasciitis in both my feet. The right foot got better, but the left foot never got better. Okay. So I went to see a doctor. He found that it was, he did, an MRI, found that there was, I forget the diagnosis, but he said the issue was the tendon, not the plantar fascia. And so I continued with physical therapy, didn't find relief. And so he said at that point he would recommend surgery.
Okay. All right. And I know that in the beginning, in the postpartum era, you tried running and had some leaking. Is that correct? Or were you just leaking with walking or lifting or coughing, sneezing, running, jumping, climbing trees?
So I did not attempt running. I still was having a lot of pain in the neuroma area, as well as I had pretty bad Achilles tendonitis at the time, during pregnancy, and then finally was able to kind of treat those two things after pregnancy. Was having trouble with a lot of leaking, like significant, after giving birth, and like even in the hospital when I got up from bed. So it was really bad at the beginning. And then I still had issues with, if I walked too fast, if I sneezed, with walking mainly. And then I did some internal work with a women's health therapist, and she gave me exercises, and that got better. So this is my first attempt at running now.
Okay, so no leaking up until this point of running.
I did have some history of leaking before pregnancy.
Okay.
It would only happen periodically, like at the end of a race, end of a half marathon, final sprint to the end. And, it would just happen then. So it happened probably, 4 or 6 times that I can remember over a span of several years running before pregnancy. And then I had a lot of discomfort, like I had to go when I tried running during pregnancy. And so I actually stopped because it was so uncomfortable, because I always felt like I had to pee when I was pregnant. So I stopped running.
So you felt the urge to go while you were running during pregnancy?
Yes, and then I had a lot of pain in my inner groin area as well during pregnancy, in addition to the neuroma and the Achilles pain. So
right, that's the hip.
Altogether, it was not comfortable running, so I stopped.
That's the hip stuff you were talking about, right, Erica?
Yes, left hip.
Yeah.
Okay. Left hip, left foot, right foot.
Yep. Okay, great. So since that time, pregnancy, postpartum, we know that you had the pretty good leaking that started off right after. That's all gotten a lot better. You're only leaking now with running, the 15 minutes on, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Is that correct?
Yes, and it starts pretty immediately, like the first minute that I start running, it begins then and just continues.
Okay.
It stops when I walk and then starts again if I run. I very occasionally, if a sneeze catches me off guard, or cough or something, like very occasionally I've had leaking, but it's a lot less than at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, but it's still interfering with what you want to do.
Right.
So,
Jackie, quick question. You were going to do the coffee. Didn't the first time you leaked, you had coffee beforehand or something? Did you change that up the second time?
So interestingly, the first time I ran, it was without coffee, and that was the only time I didn't have a problem with leaking. It was kind of like right when I first got up. Ever since then, I've had coffee before, and I've had that issue. So I don't know if related or not.
Yeah. Well, you should be able to have coffee and not leak when you run, right? I mean,
right. But we got to look at everything here to see what we can start tweaking to get your system back online here.
Exactly.
How much coffee are you drinking?
I'm a big coffee drinker. I get like a venti iced coffee at Starbucks usually.
Okay. One?
One.
And any other caffeinated drinks through the day?
No.
Okay. What else do you drink? Water?
Water, occasional seltzer, occasional kombucha, occasional wine, beer in the evening.
Okay.
Susan, Jackie's a nutritionist, just FYI. I didn't mention that before.
Okay, that's great.
Okay. Yep.
So how much water are you drinking?
I don't know. I drink a lot of water though. I have noticed actually more recently, I've started to have to wake up in the middle of the night to pee, which that hasn't happened for several months.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a quantity of the water I drink.
That's all right. That's all
right. I know
right.
I'm a big water drinker.
Yeah. And your system has changed now.
Yes.
It's just different. You're at a different season in your life now. And so what we could tolerate before, sometimes we can't. or we have to kind of tweak and adjust it a bit as we go forward. But the water and the coffee may have something to do with kind of what's happening here. Certainly, I would have to say the middle of the night businesses because of whatever you may be drinking during the day, and then whatever's happening at nighttime, and just when you lay down and go to sleep, if there's a lot of fluid that your body's been dealing with, the diaphoresis really gets rolling as soon as you lay down, and so we may just have to look a little bit at kind of how much you are drinking. And if you're, some people tend to put their water drinking off until later in the day when they really feel thirsty, and so that can be kind of an overload on the system at that point too. So something to think about there for sure. And let's see. Besides, you're sleeping well otherwise?
Yes, in general.
Okay.
Occasional trouble sleeping, but overall, I sleep well.
Okay. You feel good when you wake up in the morning?
Still feel pretty tired in the morning when I wake up.
And that's the coffee bit then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jackie, on that.
And is your daughter sleeping through the night?
Yes, she
Okay.
is a great sleeper.
Okay. All right. Okay. And let's see. You started working on running, and you started 1 minute on, 1 minute off for 10 minutes, and you were fine doing that a few times. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Only once.
Yep.
Only once. And the next time you did it, you had the leaking started like in that first minute of running?
Yep.
Okay.
And then every time since.
Right.
And I was thinking about it a lot the last time I ran, and I was, kind of trying to like think about stopping and, wasn't able to. But I noticed like a lot of my old aches and pains that I used to have, kind of returned in the past few days, not to the same degree, but I think I was just changed my stride with like trying to focus on it so much, and it affected me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense there, because one of the things I'm thinking about listening to your history and everything Erica did, and we had kind of talked about this already. I believe you knew we were talking a little bit.
Yeah.
About what was going on with you is the shock attenuation, which are the ability to control the when you run, it's a little bit of a different shock experience into your body, than when you walk. Because when we walk, we usually have one foot on the ground as the other one's coming on the ground. So there's a way to, load and unload the shock businesses that's coming up through the feet. And when you're running, it's one leg to one leg to one leg to one leg. And so that changes quite a bit the demands that, go through the pelvis. And, so sometimes we can be really good and have a good pelvic floor for what we need, just, like I said, walking, lifting, climbing trees, being okay there. But when we start really challenging the system, with the running, that, if your system isn't dealing with the shock attenuation well, that really gets rumbled through the pelvis there. And because that's where a lot of that crosses over, through our system. And so it can really put a challenge, into the pelvic floor and onto the system. When you run, or can you just tell me this? When you walk, do you walk back on your heels? Where do you kind of hang out? Just go ahead and stand up and just tell me where your weight is on your feet. I know that you guys have worked a lot on your feet. So just do it like a normal stand up. Like would be me standing in line at the bank, not thinking about anything.
Okay. It feels like more weight is in my heels standing.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so what I want you to do, we're going to go through a couple of things, but you're just there in your house, I assume, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have some room to move around?
Yes.
All right. So what I want you to do, you remember how to do the Kegel exercise, right?
Yes.
Okay. So while you're standing there and you feel the weight on the back of your heels, I want you to just do the Kegel and just feel it. Don't make any judgments about it. Just do it.
Okay.
Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to, all you're going to do is you're going to do a forward lean, but you're going to lean at your ankles, not at your hips. So it's kind of like you're going to be a tree swaying in the wind. So just your roots are going to stay still on your feet, but you're actually going to be kind of transferring your whole body weight just forward towards the toes.
Okay.
All right? And everything else is straight. So you'll feel your calf muscles kick on. It changes how your tummy muscles work because we're just changing how you're standing under gravity. And repeat the Kegel.
Okay.
All right? Did you feel it different this time?
Yes.
More in the front, right?
I actually felt like I was compensating a little bit with my glutes.
Okay, well, your glutes are going to come on a little bit in that position, and that's okay.
Okay.
But the Kegel felt different, right? Go back to your heels.
Okay.
And feel it again.
Okay.
And then lean forward and do it again.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I do feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So oftentimes, you know, I didn't ever see you run before, but I could almost guess female marathon runners tend to run a little bit back on their heels. And, you know, so it was, you know, and the leaking that you had long before pregnancy, you know, could be some of that could have been water management as you were racing. Some of it could have been like the sympathetic drive that goes on, you know, at the end, like it's the final sprint. I got to get there. Really get those last few seconds, you know, and that can sometimes drive that system a little bit differently because as we go into a sympathetic uptake, that's when that urgency kind of feeling can come on, and you know, like ooh, like I really have to rush to get to the bathroom kind of feeling too. But since pregnancy, you know, you've had you know, trauma and some injury to your pelvic region. You know, everybody does who has a vaginal birth. You had vaginal birth or C-section?
Vaginal.
Okay. So, and a lot of that heals as you witnessed and experienced as you went on. And now it's really only showing up when you're really super challenging the system. And so what we want to do is be able to get you back to running, but we want to have all systems firing with you.
Right.
So that you're not having to think about leaking when you're running, so that you're just thinking about putting on your shoes and going out the door and running. You know, which is what you want to do. And I'm in. So, a couple of things that I think we need to kind of think about right away is stepping up some exercises that can really help you with that one-legged kind of work that running does. But it's all going to feel like running, but it's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be designed to bring your system on board a bit before we actually do the running part. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to suggest that you do, if you have room in your house or somewhere, where do you go to do the treadmill? Do you have one at home or?
I go to the gym.
Okay, you go to the gym. Does the gym have a track?
A track?
Yeah.
No, but there's probably one nearby.
Yeah,
okay.
Like at your high school, yep.
Yeah. So, or if there's room in the gym to run that isn't on a treadmill, that would be good too. However you want to work it out. The reason that I'm bringing this up is sometimes the treadmill, you know, because it moves underneath you, can actually increase the shock stuff that you have to overcome.
Okay.
More so than you moving your body over the ground would do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong. You go to the gym because they're able to watch your daughter, correct?
Yes.
Right. That's why she goes to the gym.
Yeah, and that's fine. So if there's room for you to do some running in the gym away from the treadmill, that would be great.
Yeah.
Is that possible or no?
It's a pretty small area. I don't know if I could do it inside.
Okay.
Certainly, you know, on the weekend when I have someone to watch my daughter.
Okay.
I could find a track. I also have like a trail available to me that I
Okay.
could run on outside. I don't know if that's better than like the pavement at all.
That doesn't really matter. I guess if you were running straight up a hill, that would matter. But
Right.
I'm not so concerned about the pavement versus the trail. I'm more concerned about a treadmill versus a non-treadmill because
Okay.
it's a different kind of run. Do you
So
follow
just
me?
outside would be fine, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
yeah.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
really have to get on the track, and so the same thing's going to happen. It'll be 1 minute and 1 minute walking. So the idea would be get out and go for a walk, and let's put little runs in during your walk.
Sure.
Instead of starting off with a run, then a minute walk and a run and a minute walk when we get there. Okay,
Okay.
because I want you to kind of, do you have a stroller that you can drop her in and take to the place with you to push her while you run a little bit or walk a little bit?
Yeah, I do.
That's a good idea.
I
That's a good
haven't
idea.
attempted it. I was afraid with all the work I've done, I was afraid to change sort of my stride with the stroller. But do you think it would be okay to use the stroller?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. It's going to help you kind of stay with that forward lean a little bit.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that's going to be a good thing. Plus, your daughter's with you, so you don't have to worry about getting back home in time. And, you can still put on your shoes and get out the door.
Okay.
Yep.
But what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to start with a nice, good, how far do you think you can walk? Like a good, nice, fast walk. What feels right for you for that?
Oh, forever. I used to live in New York, so walked everywhere. So,
Okay.
And I have a dog.
Okay. Dog can come along too. That's all good. I would start off with so you can get some exercise in. I would start off with just walking. And what I would do is I would have you think about walking for at least a good 5 to 10 minutes and then do maybe a 15 to 30 seconds run.
Okay.
And split it up like that over a nice 20 to 30 minute walk.
Okay. So run 15 to 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can kind of see where we're going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If 15 to 30 seconds feels good and there's no leaking, you stay with that. You increase the intervals of 15 to 30 seconds within your 20 to 30 minute walk.
Okay.
And you start off with maybe like, I don't know, say let's start off with something like 4 30-second intervals, 15 to 30-second intervals. And then that feels good, and there's and then that feels good, and there's no leaking going on. Then you can increase to 6 of those intervals, and then to 8 of those intervals. And when you get about 10 or good, you get some good intervals in there, then you can start thinking about, okay, now I'll try it for 35 seconds instead of 30 seconds.
Okay.
I want to bring you up a little bit slower.
Okay.
And get you off of the treadmill and see how your system handles that.
Okay.
Jackie, can I ask you a quick question? When you said you tried to alter your stride, to help prevent the leaking, what did you do? Did you shorten your stride?
No, it was more like in my pelvic area. I think I was trying to like Kegel or stop the peeing sensation.
Got
so
it.
I was sort of like squeezing the muscles in that area, but I think unintentionally it did change my stride, and so I feel like sore and sort of those old injury areas, like in the groin a few days later now.
Yep.
And that makes a lot of sense, Jackie, because when you activate your pelvic floor, you're not going to be able to. When you activate your pelvic floor, it's going to change your movement patterns.
Right.
When you intentionally activate it, like trying to activate it and really hold it. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to sit down if you're really holding a very strong Kegel, because your body won't. That muscle has to actually lengthen to sit down, mm-hmm. And so when you're holding it really tight, it does change how you move. Yeah. And you figured that out on your own. Before we go into the exercises that I think will also be helpful for you, are you having problems with urgency now? You talked about it before when you were running with pregnancy. Are you having that urgency feeling? Like
throughout the day?
Yeah.
I I think I've always kind of had that problem in general, but I just attributed it to because I drank so much water. It's definitely more so in the morning when, I have my coffee, having more water in the morning. I take some vitamins, have some big cups of water. And then it gets better over the course of the day.
Okay.
But then overnight, I do wake up with urgency.
Yeah.
And that's in the past, several weeks that's happened. That's new.
Uh-huh. Right. And are you having any pain with insertion? Tampons, sex?
No.
Okay. So nothing feels sore deep on the inside?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to finish up with the exercises, and I'm going to talk to you just for a couple of minutes about water and coffee here.
Okay.
So some of the exercises that I think would be very, very beneficial for you at the gym are going to be exercises, and you and Erica can go through these and work on them, or however you guys want to work. But I think you need to be doing some stuff that's going to be like, standing on one leg, hopping on one leg, standing on one leg, hopping on, standing on one leg and then hopping over to the other leg and hopping back and doing some things like that, can get your body used to the up and down stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the things that's usually missed postpartum is that we're not restoring we're getting the muscles to control and the muscles to work again, and the link tension relationships as your abdominal wall changes to come back together, but somehow we never really get that up and down stuff going again.
Hang on one second, Susan. Jackie, you've been doing little jumps, but bilateral. Did you feel any urgency or leaking with those? I gave her teeny jumps to do.
Okay.
Yes. No urgency with the little jumps back and forth.
Okay. So then you can start now from the little jumps, both feet on the ground, to going to one foot for a little bit, the other foot for a little bit, or back and forth, but keep it small and easy like that. Then you can kind of start to grade and increase that a little bit and just watch the feelings inside.
Okay.
So we don't want to we want to work, but we want to kind of work under the radar as we kind of increase things for you, rather than trying to just blow it out and then go, okay, now what do we do? So, and that'll be helpful. The other thing is that'll really, that I think really works well is, doing angled planks. So you can start with your hands on your dresser, or at the gym, you can put the bar wherever you want to put it, so that you're at about a 45-degree angle.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so you're thinking nice, strong plank, straight arms, feet behind you, nice, straight body. And then you can work on doing your hops in that position. So you can hop on both feet slightly, and then you can hop and bring your feet apart, and then hop and bring your feet back together. Hop and bring them apart, bring them back together, things like that. It's kind of like a modified burpee in a way.
Okay.
So you can go further and further with your feet apart and further back, and then back together. And then if you wanted to, you could, holding on to that, you can kind of hop forward and then hop back. So you would hop forward into kind of a crouch, and then you would hop back into that straight position. Again, like a modified burpee.
So Susan, she's against the wall, full arms straight, plank, and got it. Okay.
Yeah. Or she's on a dresser, or something, some
got it.
Nice strong object. Start at 45.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. It's going to seem not as challenging to you as you would probably like it to be, but we really need to get your system on board here. So we have to kind of do some things that are going to wear you out a bit, but do them in a way that all the system can work together. And then as you get really good at those, you can start to kind of go down to a lower angle.
Okay.
To where eventually you'll be doing them on the floor.
Okay.
And those can be super helpful. And that'll be good for your feet. And it'll also be good for, just, again, remember that forward lean. So these positions kind of put you in a different position that's going to allow your body to actually be able to withstand the forces as you do a little bit of that forward lean with your running. Because most of the time with women, what I see with running and leaking is that I really see them kind of hanging back on their heels.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to do is just kind of just get a little shift in there to see if we can't get a little oomph to the system and get that going a little bit and scale you back just a little bit. Now, the other thing is that I don't know if you have a trampoline at the gym. Is there like a little small trampoline to get on or anything like that at the gym?
I have not seen one.
Okay, because sometimes hopping on a trampoline can be super beneficial.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I have access
Yeah,
to that.
so, but you can do the same thing, with with the jumping and the other stuff, and work through that.
So 2 questions, Susan. When she's doing the planks against the wall, the 45 degree, she's jumping forward, backwards, side to side, correct?
So she's jumping forward, backwards, but I would start first with just jumping in that position to make sure she's got control.
Yep.
And she feels good and comfortable and she doesn't feel the urgency and the like, feel like I have to go to the bathroom again. And then I would start with the feet together and just jump and the feet come apart like about 8 inches apart and back together.
Okay.
And do that. Then jump 12 inches apart and back together, so that you can actually work with a pretty good jumping out to a stride. Then I would start jumping forward and back.
Yep.
So
Got it.
you can kind of.
I have a question about the hopping on one leg, Susan.
Yeah.
Is that side to side or any direction? The other exercise.
Yeah. So we started off with both feet jumping. You're already doing that.
Yep.
So you can do a number of different things. So I know Erica has you doing the star lunges.
Yep.
So you could actually start in the middle of the star and you could jump out like to 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And then you could jump out to 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And you could jump out to 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock. This, and it can be small. It doesn't have to be like all the way out to the, where you've been lunging to.
Okay.
Jump in those directions. So that'll change that up with both feet going. And then you can just do it onto one foot, like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 on one foot, 1, 2, 3 on the other foot, and kind of go back and forth. 4 on one foot, 3 on one foot, 1 on one foot, 2 on one foot, just so you just don't get bored.
In like a hopping.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, the idea is that you feel what's going on in your body, and if you start to feel that urgency or that lack of control coming on, that's it. Don't push through it.
Okay.
All right? Stop,
Yep.
change, and do something else.
Okay.
And then, we can always go back to stuff. And then you need to kind of also pay attention to how long you're doing some of these activities before something happens.
Okay.
Because that way we'll have some parameters to know, okay, you can actually do this for 10 minutes and things are good. It's when we move up to 11 minutes. So let's see what we can do in that 10 minutes to start challenging the system so that when you do move up, it's going to be able to do it.
Okay.
And I think this will help because I think Jackie may be because she has the neuroma on that left foot that had flared up. And I think doing a lot of this, Jackie, will give you more control in your feet. So correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, but I think that focusing on just getting more control in the pelvis will definitely help the balance of forces across your feet. So I wouldn't be worried about that because I know that's probably what you're thinking.
That's great.
And then you need to kind of pay attention to how your feet feel. Don't keep doing something to make your foot sore. Just do it a little bit, see how it goes, and just kind of monitor it. We'll kind of stay under the radar. That area has been, kind of sensitive for a while now. And, we'll just kind of find the edge and stay under the radar of what's going on there as we kind of progress things out. Because when that starts, when you start having some of those symptoms again, that can probably drive the system with your urinary system too, because when we have a pain experience, we tighten things up. That's what we do. That's what humans do. It's how we cope with it. Yep. And so that can change the forces, going into the pelvis, and boom, there we go.
Yep. Right?
So now the coffee and the water. If you are having that kind of urgency and especially with the water drinking, that there are 2 things. Number one, you're overloading your kidneys probably too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, is all seems to be happening right around the time that you're doing everything, which is first thing in the morning. I'm getting my coffee in, then I'm drinking water, I'm taking vitamins, and I'm having all of these issues right in the beginning.
Yep.
And so if you could possibly, I'm just wondering what that would look like for you, if you could actually spread this out a bit through the day,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps maybe thinking, I need to drink water, but do I need to drink the whole entire cup right away? Or what would it look like if I actually kind of got a really cute cup with a lid on it, carried it around with me everywhere, and my goal was to drink that glass of water or that cup of water, or how much water that is, but over the next hour or so, and maybe not all at once.
Okay.
Because some, again, like I said, you're in a new season of your life, and you're a nutritionist, so I think you can kind of follow where I'm going here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The hormonal imbalance that sometimes can occur in the postpartum, 2 years, is a pretty real thing. And even though your hormones have the progesterone has come down, because you're no longer carrying a baby, and all of the different things are going on, you may still be a bit estrogen dominant. And that can be driving a little bit of all of this as well. The urgency, the getting up in the middle of the night, those types of things. So being able to spread your water out during the day can be quite helpful.
Okay.
I'm not going to take your coffee away from you. I would never take anybody's coffee away from them. I will say, what would it look like if you bought the meat, the grande instead of the venti?
Oh, yes.
Less ice.
Yeah. Or just, just think about that, and think about, you can kind of scale it back a little bit, but still have it. And, and think of, so slow the water drinking down a bit. Most people are over drinking water anyway. I'm not saying not drink it, just the way you drink it rather than gulping it all down. Just kind of allow yourself to just hydrate throughout the day rather than all at these one times that is occurring. That can really help that urgency bit, quite a bit.
Okay.
Whenever I hear the urgency piece coming on with that, it's like, ooh, that's too much going into the system all at once. And it doesn't matter how strong your pelvic floor is, you're not going to be able to handle that too well.
Yeah.
So that could be part of it. And the other part is it gets a little personal, so just bear with me here. You don't have to say it on the air, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of really being sure that you're getting great vegetables in. You're a nutritionist. Your GI system really needs that, because you need to be able to poop well, because it's not so much that having the estrogen in your system. We're females, we should have estrogen, but it's the estrogen breaks down in the system, and it's the dirty estrogens that are hanging around. And those are the ones that need to go away. And the only way that they go is when we go to the bathroom. So nice, good, fluffy bowel movements, very helpful. So, and remember that, if you up your vegetable intake and some of your fruit intake, your system is going to really get a lot of water out of that. So, and that's another good way to hydrate, so it doesn't just slide through.
Interestingly, I go to an integrative medicine doctor. I did a Genova GI effect test recently, and she noticed on that, I can't remember what was a little bit elevated, but it was something that helps get estrogen out of the system that's in the GI tract. And so she had recommended a supplement to help get rid of that.
Good, perfect. So and was it magnesium?
I'm just gonna go, I have a note about it. I'm just gonna get it. It is calcium gluconate.
Okay, yeah. Good.
So I haven't
be helpful.
That yet, but it's interesting that you said that about the estrogen, because that was something she noticed. That was like the only notable thing that she noticed on the test, was that might not be good, having too much estrogen hanging around.
Right, and because that can drive the sensitivity of the nervous system as well.
Yeah.
So some of the, kind of little flare-ups up and down of some of the pain stuff can be musculoskeletal for sure, but your nervous system can also be, the sensitivity of your nervous system can also be twanged by that as well. So it's always kind of like all of the pieces and not just one piece.
Yeah.
So like even with the running and the leaking, it may not just be the shock attenuation, it may be the over drinking of the water too. And so when you start jousting everything around, there it goes.
Right.
So, it's kind of like a combination of all those together, but that'll be helpful. But yeah, getting that going. And like I say, I tell people all the time, if they're battling some constipation, to chew your food, chew as much as you can to get those digestive enzymes in. And, because that's a real natural thing in up the veggies, because that's the best way. As you know, being a nutritionist, we're supposed to have, a certain number of veggies every day,
right,
to keep us going and keep us functioning optimally. I think those things will help. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think it's really interesting the role of the hormones, the especially estrogen, that they play in all of that, digestive, et cetera, and just the pain experience too. I think that's
exactly
really quite interesting for me. I had a quick question, Susan. You had spoken. I reached out to you before on this podcast about Jackie, and you had suggested to do some low, deep squats.
Yeah.
Is that still on the table to open to? So
yeah. So you guys, Jackie, can you squat low like a catcher? Does that bother you in any way?
No, I've been doing those. I probably don't go as low as a catcher. I think it bothers my knees slightly if I go that low, but I kind of go towards that level.
Okay.
And the reason you suggested that was that it puts the pelvic floor in a lengthened position.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So when you have a system like Jackie's is going on right now, particularly with some of the urgency, that can drive an over recruitment of the pelvic floor, or the pelvic floor being over recruited can drive urgency. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Let's just treat them both. Right. And so some of the best ways to do that is to get the pelvic floor in a lengthened position. So you already have her doing on all fours and sit backs like wild, wild child and child's pose. She's doing yoga, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And Pilates and all of that great stuff. I'm for it all. And so just being sure we get some nice deep squats in, not enough to hurt your knees, but what you can do is you can just hang on to the kitchen sink and squat down and, use your hands to kind of stable, just to help you kind of feel like, can I get all the way down? Can I come all the way up? And then you have that assistance. So if your knee is bothering you a little bit, you're not really driving into that sensitivity. You can kind of like just go as far as you feel comfortable with. Okay. But being able to go a little bit deeper in those can be quite helpful. Just because it really puts your pelvic floor in a new position to where it really needs to like lengthen out. It needs to be able to lengthen, and it needs to be able to shorten. It does both, and it has to be able to do those as we move. And so that just reminds your body that, oh yeah, we can go into these positions too, and those are very helpful. With your daughter sitting on the floor, or you can actually sit low onto a stool. And play with her. Those are great positions to get into, crawling around on the floor with her. I know Erica's got you on all fours, so all of those things are good. One thing that I would also bring in for you, because it just is so great with little kids, is sing the songs with her. Sing low and sing high.
Okay.
And do the books and do all the characters, but really exaggerate the lows and the highs. The little bitty bitty bird and big bad wolf. Because your voice, the voice production going high and going low, the pelvic floor is part of that. And it's a fantastic way to get your pelvic floor going, doing some other things other than just a boring Kegel.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But it's great because you have a little child, so you can just be silly. And do some fun things with it, and sing out loud, like really go for it. And as you get stronger and stronger, start talking more, as you're, starting to do your little runs and things like that, start adding some vocalizations to it and some other things. There's a reason why they always say, you know, that you're in great shape when you can talk and do the exercise at the same time, because all the
Yeah.
systems are firing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Great. Can
It's
we
awesome.
get a,
Thank you
can
so
we get
much.
a, yeah, you're so welcome. Can we get a, uh, what do I want to say? Can we get an update from you at some point?
Of course, this was so helpful. I really appreciate you looking so deep into my history and thinking about this at all angles. It's really helpful, and I learned a lot from you. So thank you.
You're
Yeah.
very welcome.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming on, Jackie.
We all learned a tremendous
Oh,
amount from you too. Thank you for
totally.
sharing your story. It's so important.
Great learning experience for everybody. Thank you so much,
Mm-hmm.
Jackie.
Thank you, Derek and
Yeah.
Susan.
So we'll update, or we can figure out we could update. I think this was fun. I enjoyed this personally.
Me too.
Cool. Anything else, Susan, that we want to add before we sign off?
I'm good.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it. Any problems or any questions about this, just feel free to reach out on our website, toughtotreat.com, or email us, or just check us out on social media. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.